Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the SOULKATION podcast. I have the honor, the privilege, the pleasure of interviewing somebody's. I read his book maybe 4 years ago. So let me give you a background on him. His name is Tom Corley. He's internationally recognized as an authority on habits and wealth creation. He's a best-selling and award-winning author. His books include Rich Habits, Rich Kids, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life, Rich Habits, and Poor Habits. He's appeared on CBS Evening News, The Dave Ramsey Show, CNN, MSN Money, USA Today, The Huffington Post, Success Magazine, Inc. Magazine, Money Magazine, and so many more. He's also a CPA that heads a financial firm in New Jersey. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Logan. Thanks for having me on. That's just so cool.
Yeah, I was like, I have to get him on the podcast. I have to. Like, there's no other way. And I've listened to several of your interviews that you've done on YouTube. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to help and spread the gospel of the rich habits any place I can.
So, okay. You're an authority on wealth, okay? Were you always good with money?
No, I've been terrible with money. To be honest with you, it wasn't until I ran into the rich habits that I kind of had a much different understanding of money. You see, because I was raised in a family where we had nothing but money problems, and there were 11 of us in the family. So it's not hard to have money problems when you have 11 people in the family. But my dad was just not good with money, and he passed along a lot of bad habits to us. And also, just by the virtue of the way that we were raised, we picked up bad money habits. I'll give you a perfect example. I remember I was in the 8th grade, and we had no money, so I was shoveling snow, mowing lawns, and I saved up about $200, which was a lot of money back then, because I wanted to have an 8th grade graduation party. And I told my mom, I think about a week before the party, hey, I just want to let you know I was going to have some friends over. I was going to have a party in our backyard. And she said, oh, no, Tommy, we can't do that. We don't have any money. And I said, Mom, I have $200. I saved it up over the last year. And I was just going to use that money just to get some food and, you know, a cake and all that stuff. Well, that night, my father came into my room and he said, you know, I'm sorry, but, you know, we can't have the party. I need that $200 because of whatever. It happened again when I was graduating college, which I had to go to I had to work as a janitor to pay my way through college. So I did that 20 hours a week. I saved up $5,000 for, I don't know if you ever heard, but Ford had this great car. It came out. It was called the Ford Fiero. It was a cheap car. It was the coolest looking car you ever saw in your life, Logan. It had the pop-up lights. One of the first cars besides the Mazda RX-7 to have the pop-up lights. So it was a sports-looking car for poor people to middle-class people. And so it was about $7,500, and I had saved up $5,000, and I was just going to take out a loan for the $2,500. Well, my father found out that I had $5,000, and he said, I need the $5,000 to pay the property taxes or we're going to get kicked out of our house, which was ongoing during my whole life. So I had to give up the $5,000. So do you know what lesson that taught me? Never save money because somebody's going to take it from you. And so I took that with me into my adult world. You know, we pick up, our habits spread like a virus through our social networks. And our big social network is our parents because we're with them so often. So you pick up these habits and, you know, you're 35, 40 years old and you're scratching your head and you're saying, why does my life suck? Why do I hate my job? Why don't I have any money in the bank? And for the most part, the answer is because of the habits that you have and probably because of the habits you picked up from your parents.
Yeah, that's so good. No. Why did you tell them the full amount?
I don't even know how they found out I had $5,000, but you know, to be honest with you, I went to seminary school for a little while, So I guess I had a little bit of Jesus in me, whatever you want to call it. And I couldn't just go out and get a new car without telling my parents. I guess in the back of my mind, I suspected that maybe they needed the money, and it might, but whatever. It ended up. I never got my Fiero. That's the answer to that.
I hate that. So, what does wealth mean to you?
So, well, there's seven types of wealth. So there's the wealth that we all associate with the most, we recognize the most, and that's money, financial wealth, right? But there's health wealth. There's happiness or fulfillment wealth. That's doing a job that you like or love, right? That's wealthy. That you're wealthy if you have that. There's relationship wealth. These are the people that you surround yourself with. If they're upbeat, positive, optimistic, success-minded people, that you're wealthy. There's, the wealth that you have associated with, let's say, the stuff that you have, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to be rich, but you could have certain things that to you, make you feel wealthy. There's emotional wealth. There's people that are on an even keel that don't have the up and down necessarily that a lot of people have with their emotions. So there's all these types of wealth. But if you're talking about money wealth, in my study, in my Rich Habits study, it was having two things. One was an income of $160,000 or more, and having a net worth of $3.2 million or more. That made you wealthy, and that's made you qualify for my study.
My goal is 3.3 across the board.
Yeah, so that would make you wealthy according to my study. Okay. And do you know why? Because that 3.3 million, let's say if it was net investable assets, if you put it into, say, a variable annuity that kicked off 5% a year, guess what? That 3.2 million would generate about $160,000 of income. And now you live in San Diego, so I'm not so sure that's enough.
I read an article that said to live comfortable here is comfortable is 195,000.
Yeah, so let's just do the math. 195 divided by 5%. That means you have to have 3.9 million.
Okay, so I got to push it up.
If you want to put it into some asset that's going to kick off 5% a year. So.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say somebody's doing successful. Let's say they're at the $160,000 a year. Like, how are they maintaining that number? How does somebody maintain that number?
Well, if you're most of the wealthy in my study, they built their wealth up over a long period of time, right? Yeah. So they would have their money working for them in some type of investment. Now, it could be variable annuities, could be stock investments, it could be real estate. But those investments the idea would be those investments generate a cash flow of about $160,000 a year. Now, the interesting thing I found in my study was that the millionaires had multiple streams of income. And so why is that important? Well, it's important because just as you said, how if something happens in the economy and it affects, let's say, one of those streams of income, well, the other two streams can come to the rescue, and you can actually survive by drawing down more on those assets while the other stream goes through whatever economic gyrations it's going through, till you get that stream fixed. And you can survive. And what I mean by survive is you can still live the standard of living. You can maintain your standard of living, whatever it is. That's the idea of true wealth. True wealth is having enough money to produce a cash flow that allows you to maintain your standard of living.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so let's get into the Rich Habits. It's really a book worth reading every quarter, if you ask me. It's not a book you read one time and you got it. No. So let's run through some of the habits. One is avoid procrastination. You said successful people understand that procrastination impairs quality. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so imagine, like, a lot of people procrastinate. So imagine you're waiting and you're waiting until the last minute and you finally say, I got to get this done for a client or a customer. And what happens in a lot of cases when you're doing a project for whoever, you run into glitches, right? Well, now you're under the gun because time is running out because you procrastinated for so long. And now you're cutting corners. You're trying to get it in because you gave them a timetable to get it done. And so you provide the service or the product on time, but you kind of rushed it and you didn't dot your I's and cross your T's. Well, what generally happens is the quality of the product or the service suffers because you rushed it, because you procrastinated. And the why is that bad? Well, it's bad, number one, because the product or the service that you provide might not meet the expectations of the customer or the client. So that you might lose a long-term customer or client. But even worse than that is if the quality is subpar and negatively affects the customer or the client in some way, they can turn around and sue you. So procrastination actually not only leads to poor quality, it leads to potential lawsuits. So it's not a habit that wealthy people engage in.
I love it. Another habit was network and volunteer regularly. Why do you think that's important?
Well, so this is all about building power relationships. This is what I call them. These are relationships with influencers, centers of influence. You want to focus your energy on building those types of relationships because power relationships are individuals that can open doors for you. They can make a phone call, like the phone call I just got off of, where this woman said that she can get me, open some doors for me because I do a lot of speaking engagements and with these big companies, right? So I said, that's awesome, And so if you know the right people, they can make a phone call and next thing you know, you're doing a speaking engagement, you have a new client, you have a new customer. Or they can open up the door to, let's say your child wants to go to a particular university. Maybe they have really good grades and they're top of their class and all this stuff. And they want to go to one of the top schools. Well, it sure helps if somebody is a bigwig who knows the people at, let's say, Notre Dame or Dartmouth or whatever, right? It's just a phone call, and then they can get your child in the door. Or maybe you want to get your child an internship in college, right? These power relationships, it's a phone call or an email, and you got your kid a gig at working at UPS or Merrill Lynch or Google or Facebook or something like that. So you want to build these power relationships. How do you do it? You do it through networking, and you do it, I think the best way is to do it through the volunteering. Now, most of the people on the boards of local community-based nonprofits are some of the most successful people in town. And so when you decided to volunteer your services, your skills to a nonprofit, eventually you get to know the people on the board. You become friends with them, in fact, and then you start doing business with them. They can introduce you to new clients. They can, like I said, make a phone call and get you a job. Maybe you want a better job. They can do any 100 things, but it takes time to build these relationships, and the way you do it is through a couple of strategies. One I call the hello call. That's just making a periodic phone call, maybe once a quarter, saying, hey, how you doing, Logan? What's going on? And the purpose of that phone call is it's a reconnaissance mission. You want to gather information on Logan. I want to know what your birthday is. I want to know how many kids you got. What are your kids' names? What are their birthdays? What do they do? What schools do they go to? I want to know what your spouse's name is if you're married. I want to know what his birthday is. What schools he went to. I want to learn everything there is to learn about you and your life, because the more information I know about you, the more the stronger our relationship will become, and the more opportunities I'll see where I can maybe help you in some way, and you can, in exchange, help me by maybe hiring me for whatever. So those volunteering is probably the best because I hate networking. I hate those networking groups. I hate going to anything that says networking group on it. Most people do. So don't do it that way, because that's not maybe your personality type isn't suited for that. Volunteer, and then, get to know these important people that are on these boards.
That's good. I like that. I can
Yeah, so that's the hello call. Then there's the happy birthday call. Okay. So that's just once a year I call Logan and say, hey, Logan, happy birthday. And that keeps your relationships on life support, right? But the interesting thing I found in my research is that anywhere from 10 to 25% of the time, those people that you call repetitively on their birthdays, those power relationships that you're trying to build relationships with, they will engage in what I call the reciprocal happy birthday call. They will call you on your birthday primarily out of guilt. So we're using guilt here as a rich habit. So that's a good thing. That forges. That means you now have your contact with them twice a year instead of once a year. And then there's the life event call. So something happens because I'm in touch with Logan on her hello calls and my hello calls and my happy birthday calls. I find out that Logan's family member had a birth. Somebody had a birth. So I make a phone call or an email to Logan and say, hey, Logan, congratulations on the birth, whatever. Or maybe you had a health issue, and you were in the hospital for a couple of days. Hey, Logan, how are you feeling? I wanted to know if you're okay, right? Well, those life event calls, because they're emotion-based, they target the emotions of whoever it is that you're calling. They put your relationships on steroids, so to speak. The emotions are the strongest way to form memories. So now you've just, especially if it's an upbeat emotional event, you made a life event call to somebody, and now they think of you, hey, that Logan called me, when I was struggling on X, Y, or Z, and I never forgot it. I'll never forget that phone call. She made me feel so much better, or I was so happy and she called, and now I associate happiness with Logan. So the life event call is a very emotional-based call, and it solidifies, builds a stronger relationship with whoever it is, the power relationship that you're trying to forge.
I love that. You said also know your main purpose. This is one of the four pillars of my brand, purpose, peace, freedom, self-love. So how can someone uncover their purpose? That's
what everybody's asking, right? How do I know what my purpose is in life? Well, guess what? I have the answer. So your main purpose, almost 100% of the time, can be found through discovering an innate talent. That's an inborn talent that you have. Something that comes easier for Logan than it does for anybody else. Now, how do you know if you have an innate talent? Only way to possibly know or discover your innate talents is through experimentation. This is why I love the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts so much. They have these things called badges. You can have 100 badges you can go after. They have astrophysics, rocketry, law. They have accounting. They have, you name it. How to build something. Maybe it's a mailbox, or maybe it's a treehouse, or maybe it's a building. You learn all of these different things by experimentation. Well, if you experiment with different things, let's say every 3 months you try something new, something completely outside your comfort zone. You've never done it before. You have absolutely zero skills in it, but you try something new every 3 months. Well, how do you know that you have an innate talent? It just comes easier to you. It comes quickly. You find yourself figuring things out quicker than everybody else. That's how you know you have an innate talent. And the brain, it likes to express your main purpose in life. It likes to highlight it like a neon sign through passion. When you're doing something that you really enjoy, it's typically an innate talent that you have. So that's your brain's way of saying, hey, guess what, Logan? You just found an innate talent because you're passionate about it. And how do you know you're passionate about it? Because time flies. You want to keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. You don't want to stop. Even if it's hard, doing it, you love it so much. Well, that's because you found an innate talent that expresses itself in passion, And that's the brain's way of saying, this is one of your main purposes in life. You should pursue this.
That's so good. That's true. I think we try to, well, not skip around, but whatever somebody else suggests as our purpose or, what we're called to do. We use everybody else's definition instead of our own.
Yeah, we take our ladder and we put it on somebody else's wall.
Yeah.
And then we spend our whole lives climbing it. And then we get into our mid-40s and we're, still climbing the ladder, and we're miserable and unhappy. And we're wondering, why am I so miserable and unhappy? Well, you got your ladder on the wrong wall. It doesn't matter how great a climber you are. It's on the wrong wall. It needs to be on this other wall where your innate talent is.
I agree. That's good. A lot of people say they want to find a good mentor. They need somebody in their life that, provides them some type of, strategy or information. They just need help. So people will go find these good mentors, but they don't fit at all. So how does somebody find a mentor that they can actually fit with instead of just somebody that's a good mentor?
Well, ideally, this is why parenting is so important, because parents are often the only shot we have at having a mentor in life, right? Mentors are hard to find. If you find a mentor, you better thank God, because it is so hard to come by a mentor. And mentors, what's great about mentors is they fast track your success. Why? Because they teach you what to do and what not to do. And by knowing what to do and what not to do, you save a lot of time, you save a lot of anguish, because you don't have to go through the school of hard knocks, right? So, but mentors are not easy to find. So how do you find the right mentor? Well, I found what works best for me is books, biographies of wealthy, successful people, historical figures. I read books. I'm reading one on Leonardo da Vinci right now. I can tell you he would never be my mentor, but John D. Rockefeller, I read a book on him. I had this horrific opinion of John D. Rockefeller. I read this book and I was like, I want to do everything that guy did, because he is spot on. And so you have to, in my opinion, if you read books about famous people who are successful, you're gonna relate to one of them, right? Maybe it's Miley Cyrus, for God's sakes, or Justin Bieber. I don't know, but you're gonna relate to one of them, and you're gonna say, because I relate to them, I'm going to follow them a little bit and maybe pick up some of their habits, right? And that's kind of the way to do it. Now, ideally, what you want to do is find somebody at work. If you like what you're doing for a living, you find somebody at work and who's usually 1 or 2 levels above you, and you just go up to them and you say, hey, Logan, I'd like you to be my mentor. Now, I'm going to tell you something. If they're decent and good and success-minded people, they're going to say yes immediately. Unless they think you're a screw-up, then they're going to say no. So you keep searching, right? You just want to keep looking for that mentor. And I'm sorry about this. I keep getting calls. I get calls all day long. I'm sorry, I just turned it off. So anyway, you kind of keep searching for a mentor if you want to have a physical mentor, which that's somebody. How about this? How about you aren't sure, you don't like your job, and there's certainly nobody at work you want to be your mentor, because why would you want anybody to mentor you to do something you hate? Well, they have this, you have the ability, they have this gig economy going on right now, right? So you could say, I want to work part-time. Maybe I want to work as a graphic artist. I want to try that out. So you go to somebody, you go online, Google, find a graphic artist within 30-mile radius of where you live, and go to that person's office and say, hey, I would like to intern for you. I'm willing to give you 10 hours a week. You don't have to pay me. I just want you to teach me how to be a graphic artist. In exchange for my free services, you teach me how to be a graphic artist. Maybe it's photography. Maybe it's how to write. So you stumble onto somebody, maybe they're a successful author, and you say, hey, I want you to teach me how to write, and in exchange, I'm going to do, what do you need me to do? tell me what you want me to do. And then I find out you have certain skills that I don't have. Maybe it's social media. Say, how about this? You're going to help me with my social media. And then in exchange, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you 5 hours a week on how to write a book. So you can, if you want it bad enough, you'll find a mentor. Trust me. The problem is people want the mentors to drop into their laps. And that never happens, very rarely, except if they're parents. Your parents drop in your laps, and for the most part, parents aren't good, the mentors, success mentors that you need in life. So it's just, the way it is. So anyway, that's kind of my from my research, how you go about finding mentors.
I agree. And then it's funny because a lot of people get coaches and mentors and they think they're going to do the work for them. Like, I paid you this money, or I spent this much time with you, and I thought I was going to get a return, not information, but like physical labor, which I don't even understand why that, people expect that from people. Like,
well, I think in part that's the mentor or the coach's fault, because I think, like if I was mentoring somebody and somebody said, hey, I want to pay you, Tom Corley, and trust me, almost every week I get people from around the world who ask me to mentor them. And I don't have the time. I'm running 3 businesses. It's impossible. So I always tell them, go to my website and I'll mentor you on my website, because I write every day. But let's say, I'm, willing, to do that. Well, I'm going to say, yeah, you pay me $10,000, and let me tell you what's going to happen. So the mentor or the coach lays it out, and they explain to them exactly what is going to happen. So you manage their expectations. And then you say, this is what's going to happen if you do A, B, and C. Yeah. And so you manage their expectations right out of the gate. So nobody's disappointed. And then they pay you the $10,000. You do exactly what you promised them you were going to do. They don't do what they were supposed to do, and you let them know every time, because you have a follow-up as part of your next coaching session. Hey, I remember the email I sent you on our last session that summarized everything that we talked about and also gave us the agenda for the next one. Did you do A, B, and C? And if they say no, then you have a choice as a coach. You could say, I don't see this working. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to refund you most of your money back because you're not doing A, B, and C. And then this way you manage that whole part of it too, because honestly, if you're coaching someone, you want them to be successful, right? Because they are going to be your greatest sales force. If they're not successful, they're going to be your greatest enemy. So it's not just about making money. It's about building your coaching business so that you have a team of cheerleaders and not a team of boo leaders.
That's really, really good. I never thought about it like that. Of course, if it's not great feedback, they're going to tell people. Yeah.
Yep. They absolutely will.
That's so good. I've had so many nuggets. I'm sure the audience have had so many nuggets. So thank you so much for coming on the SOULKATION podcast. It's been amazing. Is there anything that you need support with? Anything that my community can do anything for you?
Yeah, all I'm going to throw out there is, look, hey, I'm at this every day. I'm helping people every day. I have a tip of the morning to you that goes out every single day. I never run out of topic ideas. And I have probably 1,500 articles on my website. It's free. You just have to subscribe. It's richhabits.net, www.richhabits.net. And, you can find me on LinkedIn, Thomas Corley, or Rich Habits. I can't remember. It's one of those. Facebook is the same thing, Thomas Corley, Rich Habits. And I think Twitter is Rich Habits. You can follow me any of those ways. And, you'll walk this journey with me together.
Definitely. And I'll definitely share your website. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, Logan. Thank you.
Everybody that's listening to this episode, make sure you share it with your best friend. Also, subscribe to the SOULKATION podcast. It's been an honor. And I will see you all on the next episode. Thanks.